So, be honest. Who missed this?
Today's matchup, Runaway, Lunatic-Hai.
This was the Overwatch Anniversary 2020 special matches. There were 2 matches that took place and they were done by the OGN production, the guys that used to do Apex, and we all hear about Apex. We all know about Apex if you've been linked with the Overwatch League or you've watched the Overwatch League. You can't stop Wolf and Achilles talking about Apex, and they did the casting or the English casting on this. This was awesome. This was amazing, and the 2 matches were a Future Stars match, which showed off a lot of new rookie talent coming through Korea, and they were headed by Toby and Slime, the 2 supports from the Seoul Dynasty. And I think originally there was another one meant to be there. I think it was Lee J Gon, but he was unable to take part, so Toby took over. But this was awesome to see so much really, really good talent, and it is talent that possibly we will see in the future in the Overwatch League, which is going to be really, really interesting. They're not quite ready yet, or they're not quite old enough yet, but also we get to see the match afterwards. The first match was relatively fast. If you don't want any spoilers, don't watch this video, and I do recommend you go and watch this. This is some of the best quality production you will see in Overwatch ever, because it's Apex, because it's OGN. It is crazy, crazy good, and it brings back so many memories of life before the Overwatch League, which was very, very different when in terms of production and stuff like that. But we'll go through that in a minute. But with the Futures match was pretty one-sided for Toby's team, but then we got what a lot of people have been waiting for. This was the show match between Lunatic-Hai and Runaway, but the OG versions of both of these teams. So the Runaway roster was Runner, who is now coach/owner of Runaway, but he did used to play for them. Haxel, Stitch, Bumper, Kaiser, and Twilight. So that is pretty much most of the OG Runaway lineup. I think it's just missing Cox, who used to play support for Runaway around the time they used to play. They played Lunatic-Hai in the final of Apex, I believe. So Bumper, and you see Bumper and Kaiser together. That's because they were together at that point. Kaiser was the main tank, and Bumper was the off tank. So in this series, you see Bumper play the Zarya, the D.Va. He even played Sigma at one point, and it's incredibly interesting. It's incredibly interesting to see Bumper play again, and it's the first time we've seen him since he left the Vancouver Titans, and he was the first to leave, obviously, before this season of the Overwatch League started, and I would love to see Bumper back. It was great to see him on stage again, and Haxel and Stitch looked like they were having a whale of a time. This was LAN, by the way. This was in the studio, the OGN Esports stadium in Seoul, I believe, and it was incredibly, incredibly awesome to watch, to see these players back. Runner, obviously, he's been part of Runaway the whole time, but he used to play for them. Then he went away on military service as well, but now he's recently come back, and now he's on stage again. And Runner is an absolute laugh, and it was really good to see him. But moving to Lunatic-Hai, and some of these players, they've retired. Some of these players are now coaches. Some of these players are still playing. So we had Toby, obviously still with Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty were the team that took most of that old Lunatic-Hai roster. Then we have Miro. Miro is obviously coaching now. Who Are You, who's on a part of the NYXL. Lee Tae-jun, he actually left Overwatch and went to play PUBG, I think, for Genji's organization. Zunba, obviously. Remember Zunba of the Soul Dynasty, Guido, and Rouge Hong. It's good to see Rouge Hong again. And he was popping off on the Ana. His sleeps are so filthy, it's ridiculous. The only person we were kind of missing from the OG Lunatic-Hai roster was Eska. He didn't come back, unfortunately. But that's kind of... It's unfortunate. And we did... Obviously, Lunatic-Hai had one more player than Runaway. So they kind of swapped Lee Tae-jun and Guido around at times, I believe. But Who Are You? This was Who Are You with some of his best showings as well, because what happened in this, and it was very, very interesting to watch, because it followed a different rule set. There was no hero pools. No set... Well, this is banned for the entire series, which I think was good. Also, there was no role lock. So... You saw, like, Rouge Hong, he died, he needed to get back to point, so he switched to the Soldier 76. He didn't switch to a Moira or anything like that. He switched off the Ana to the Soldier 76 to get back. So, we saw things like that, which we haven't seen in years now. And the interesting thing about what they did is they did hero bans. They didn't do hero pulls. So, at the start of the match, the teams got to pick 4 heroes, 1 support, one tank, and 2 DPS to ban. But the interesting thing about this is it wasn't banned for both teams. So Runaway picked the heroes to ban that Lunatic-Hai couldn't play, and then Lunatic-Hai picked the heroes that Runaway couldn't play. So there's a bit of differentiation across it. Now, there was a complete consensus that Baptiste was banned, and Orisa was banned, and Echo was banned. But the last hero, there was a bit of difference between the teams. So I believe Lunatic-Hai banned Mei, so Runaway couldn't run the Mei, but Runaway banned Sombra, so Lunatic-Hai couldn't run the Sombra. I think that's the way around it was. It might have been the other way around. So I do apologize if it was that way, the other way around. But that was incredibly interesting. Actually, I think it was the other way around, because I think Who Are You did pick up the Mei at one point. So I think Lunatic-Hai couldn't play Mei, and Runaway couldn't play Sombra. So it was incredibly interesting, and what happened is when you got to the 3rd map in the series, and this did go the length, so when you got to the 3rd match in the series, one hero could be unbanned in the 3rd map, in the 4th map a next hero could be unbanned, and in the 5th map another hero could be unbanned, until you got to one hero banned, and that would be it. You can't unban any more heroes. And I thought that was a pretty interesting concept. And the hero that didn't get unbanned from both teams was Orisa, which is very, very interesting, isn't it? Yeah. When you've got Miro and Kaiser and Bumper, is it any surprise that Orisa didn't get unbanned? I don't think so. So, yeah, this was incredibly interesting. It was a different format, and it's a format that I think worked pretty well. It made things very interesting. It made things very tactical at times, even though it was a show match. So I don't think it would be too bad to try it in other instances. I'm not saying roll it out fully, but, you know, keep trialing it, keep giving it a go, because it was a pretty good format, and I think there was a few people in the chat that liked it. I'm not going to lie, I think there's a few people on Twitter that liked it. So I think this is going to get an incredible amount of good feedback. But obviously, there is the elephant in the room, and it was the Apex production. You can't beat it, can you? You can't beat that music. You can't beat the fan cheers. They did, even though they couldn't have an audience because of COVID-19. You can't beat the studio. The studio is awesome. The glass booths. It's just bonkers, isn't it? It's just bonkers. It brings back so many nostalgic memories, and it brings back so much of that old Overwatch feel. It's absolutely awesome. And the viewers and the casters and everything were on point. We had Wolf and Achilles from their unfortunate isolation in Korea doing it, and they were just overwhelmed with it as well. It's amazing. The camera work in-game, as is always been the case with OGN and Apex, was on point. Absolutely on point. There is no better production than what Apex and OGN did in the past, and it came back in this series, and it was fantastic. And it's something I'd like to see them do in the future. Obviously, there can't be any Apex in terms of the actual tournament coming back or anything. That when Overwatch League came in, it was an unfortunate side effect, and it would have been nice to see Apex stick around in some sort of form. Contender's career took over from it, so that's just kind of the way it was. But to bring back OGN or something like that would be awesome, and that sort of style of thing. It's such an awesome format, such an awesome studio, such awesome all around. And it would be nice to see that back again. You see some hints of the way it worked in the Overwatch League, but I don't think enough. And it was just such a lovely homage to what was Apex. And Apex wasn't around for all that long in terms of time, in some respects, but it was really fantastic, and I'd love to see some of it just transferred to more common stuff. I'd also like to see this sort of thing done on a more regular basis, unless it's just an anniversary thing. In that case, do it every anniversary. Maybe have more teams in it. Maybe bring back things like LW Blue. Imagine bringing them back. That would be very, very interesting. And then you could bring back the old Envious roster or something like that if you could get people to do it. A lot of the old Envious roster might well do it. I wouldn't be surprised. And these sorts of show matches with the sort of production that OGN can put on, it would be incredibly interesting. Incredibly interesting. So I really do hope we get to see more of this in the future. And yeah, it's been super interesting. We saw an absolute massive variety of comps run. From comps that we saw back in 2017, like Reinhardt, Zarya, Genji sort of comps, to goats. We saw goats. We got to see original Runaway run goats. It was very, very interesting. We also got to see more modern comps. We got to see some of the Brig, obviously in goats, but not just in goats as well. We got to see a bit of Echo. We just didn't see any Orisa, which I don't think anyone really complained about. But something else to note, just at the end of this video, I suppose, is that they did do interviews with all the players afterwards, or a lot of the players anyway, and they did speak to Miro and Bumper. And I have a translation of what Miro had to say. And they asked him if he had anything to say to any OWL teams. And he said, "Oh, I did well, last thing he said was, I want to make OWL, and I have confidence that I can do well. So I'd appreciate if teams would permit me to trial for them." So, this is the first indication we've had in a long time that Miro wants to return to the Overwatch League. Now, what a return that could be. Also, apparently they did speak to Bumper as well, and apparently he has been practicing very diligently. So, it may be an indication that Bumper also wants to return to competitive play, if not the Overwatch League, at some point in the future. So, I hope some of that is true. I hope Miro is genuinely looking at coming back to the Overwatch League. I think he's a fantastic player and one of the greatest main tanks we've ever seen in Overwatch. So I think it would be massive to have him back in the league in any respects, whether it's a coaching role or a playing role. But yeah, this has been an incredibly interesting tournament. It's not a tournament, but a little showcase, shall we say. It is fantastic to see Lunatic-Hai back in any capacity. They are one of the greatest teams of all time in Overwatch, and it's great to see this team back together. Who Are You when he was at his very, very best. We don't get to see Who Are You's best at the NYXL, but Who Are You at his very, very best is fantastic. The Genji we get to see from Who Are You is great when it's allowed to pop off, which it was, because at times it didn't run the Brigitte and Genji just went run riot. We got to see Haxel on it as well, and we were seeing really crazy blades. We saw Bumper get a 4K on Diva. We've seen all sorts. We've seen all sorts. It's been an incredibly interesting weekend, and if there is any, this will be one of the matches of the year. The match of the year should be the Overwatch League final, but this will be one of the matches of the year. And I do plead with people, if you want to watch some Overwatch, a high-level Overwatch, and this was high-level Overwatch, it wasn't a meme or anything. If you want to see some really good Overwatch, please watch this match. It's so good. Go to the Overwatch League YouTube channel, because that's where the Wolf and Achilles cast is, and watch this, because it is it is something to behold just to hear that Apex music again, just to hear it, see that studio again. It's fantastic, and I'd love to see it a little bit more often. That's all I'll say, but I'm going to leave it here for now. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.